Gender. Why do people care so much about it? Why do they ask so many questions about it? Why and how does it affect people's lives? Why is gender even a thing? Here's why, okay. I know that we live in a world which is organized around the idea that men and women have differences, whether it be our bodies, the way we think, and also our capabilities. This in turn has influenced how society looks at and views gender. This presentation will look at definitions of gender with regards to the sociology of gender, gender identities, and gender inequality. Then furthermore going to focus on the perspectives of functionalist and conflict theorists, specifically focusing on structural functionalism and gender conflict theory. Then look at the critics of these perspectives. Without wasting any time, let me hand over to our local theorist, and they're gonna tell us how they view or what's their take on gender.
Sociology of gender. One of the most interesting gender claim is gender. It is a social classification based on one's identity, private of self, and interaction with others. Gender is a learned behavior and it's cultural. It's a concept that describes how the society determines and manages sex categories. As you can see in the picture, there are two rings which symbolize marriage. This means that a plain marriage is a equal sharing of chores. As you can see in another picture, a man is doing breakfast. This suggests that we learn gender through the process of socialization. It is determined by what a person does and feels. Being a man or a woman is involved social norms, attitude, and activities that a society deems more appropriate for one sex over another.
I am Wazikosi Kumane, and I'll be adding on what Swanele has said about what is gender according to sociologists. The sociology of gender is a prominent subfield of sociology as one of the most important statuses and individual claims is gender. The public discourse and the academic literature generally use the term gender for the perceived or projected self-identified masculinity or femininity of a person. The sociology of gender examines how society influences our understanding and perceptions of differences between masculinity, what society deems appropriate behavior for a man, and femininity is what society deems appropriate for a woman. The way in which how this is examined in turn influences identity and social practices. The sociologists also suggest that, like all other social identities, gender is socially constructed. Socially constructivism is one of the key theories sociologists use to put gender into historical and cultural focus. The social constructionism is a social theory about how meaning is created through social interaction. It may be through the things we do and say with other people. This theory shows that gender is not a fixed or an innate fact, but instead it varies across time and place. Furthermore, gender norms are learned from birth through childhood socialization. We learn what is expected of our gender from our parents, and well as what we pick up at school through religions or cultural teachings in the media and other various social institutions.
My name is Simpuyo Kambole. I'm going to talk about gender inequality. Gender inequality is an idea or a situation that a man and a woman are not equal. Gender inequality refers to a legal, social, or cultural situation in which sex or gender determine different rights and dignity for a woman or a man, in which reflected in their equal access for enjoyment of this right, as well as assumptions of stereotyped social and cultural roles. This affects their situation status in all areas of life in a society.
whether public or private, in a family or a labor market, or the economic or.
Greeting everyone, I am Sandile and I will present on the view of Emil Durkheim on functionalism about gender equality. The functionalist perspective, also called functionalism, is one of the major theoretical perspectives in sociology. It has its origins in the work of Emil Durkheim, who was especially interested in how social order is possible or how society remains relatively stable. Functionalism interprets each part of society in terms of how it contributes to the stability of the whole society. Society is more than the sum of its parts. Rather, each part of society is functionally for the stability of the whole. Durkheim actually envisioned society as an organism, and just like within an organism, each component plays a necessary part, but none can function alone. And one experiences a crisis or fail. Other parts must adapt to fill the void in some ways. Within functionalist theory, the different parts of society are primarily composed of social institutions, each of which is designed to fill different needs and each of which has particular consequences for the forms and shape of society. The parts all depend on each other. The core institutions defined by sociology and which are important to understanding for this theory. So this theory includes family, government, economy, media, education, and religion. According to functionalism, an institution only exists because it serves a vital role in the functioning of society. If it no longer serves a role, an institution will die away. When new needs evolve or emerge, new institutions will be created to meet them. In most societies, the government or states provide education for the children of the families, which in turn pay taxes on which the states depend to keep itself running. The family is dependent upon the school to help children to grow up, to have good jobs so that they can raise and support their own families.
Greetings everyone, my name is Mtobi Simakonyane. Under the aspects of gender perspectives, I will be looking at gender roles according to functionalists. Functionalists argue that gender roles arise from the need to establish a division of labor that will help maintain the smooth running of the family and contributes to the stability of the society. This theory suggests that gender inequalities first as an efficient way to create a division of labor or a social system in which a particular segment of the population is clearly responsible for certain acts of labor and another segment is clearly responsible for another act of labor. So for instance, boys and girls are taught different approaches to life when they are growing up. Boys are taught to be instrumental, that is, to be goal-oriented, to focus on the task to become the leader of the family and the breadwinner of the family. Whereas girls, on the other hand, are taught to express their emotions and expressing their love for the family and taking care of the children. We can see here in this picture, in our codex, that we have a female here serving breakfast in bed for his husband, you know. That emphasizes the aspects of gender inequalities, where the female has to take care of the male, and the male is the one who is the breadwinner within the family. Thank you.
Structural functionalism understands that human behavior is part of a system which helps keep society organized and functioning. From this perspective, gender is a means of organizing society through set and distinct roles which complement each other. Anthropologists argue that gender roles originated from the hunter and gatherer era, an era whereby men were perceived to be much physically stronger than women, and also that they did not have to bear the demands of childbirth. Therefore, men had tasks which were set outside the household, like hunting and gathering, whilst their female counterparts had to settle for responsibilities in and around the household, like cooking and nurturing for the family. The idea of these roles became institutionalized. How so? Even in modern society, we still have roles and tasks which are set aside for men to do because of their perceived physical strength. For example, teachers still ask for boys only to accompany them to the staff room whenever they need assistance with carrying textbooks. Parsons argues that both boys and girls are socialized to take on complementary traits to make it easier to maintain stable and productive families. Parsons also states that boys are taught instrumental qualities which include confidence and competitiveness, to prepare them for the labor force, while girls are taught expressive qualities such as empathy and sensitivity to prepare them to take care of their families. Parsons' theory of a successful family is based on the fact that a family needs to have people who possess a complementary traits, and gender gives us a way of pairing off such skills. Though this theory of Parsons was widely accepted during its time, over the years it has fallen out of favor, and for many reasons, and my colleague will continue stating those reasons. Thank you.
Functionalists believe that there are social roles better suited to one gender than the other, and that societies are more stable when certain tasks are fulfilled by the appropriate sex. Now, this goes back to the world's famous saying that says, a woman's place is in the kitchen. So according to functionalism is that women depend on men for a living. So women are regarded as dependents while men are regarded as dependent. So the whole idea is that men should be hunters who feed their family while women do the house chores and watch over the children and the whole other stuff. Maybe it's one of the reasons that we have never seen a female president or any female leader. So in our societies, we see this.
My name is Ntobisi Masaba, and I will take you through the critics of conflict theory on gender. They focus too much on the positive functions that institutions perform, ignoring the negative ways in which the institution and socialization can have on certain people. Feminists, for example, argue that the traditional nuclear family, which is seen as necessary by persons, oppresses women as they are expected to fulfill the housewife roles, which alternately makes women dependent on men for income and ends up benefiting men who benefit from women emotionally and domestic labor. They also ignore the real dark side of family life. You can take this criticism, which further by arguing that functionalist theory is itself ideologically by arguing society needs nuclear family to provide effective socialization. This theory itself reinforces the social order. As you can see in the collage, the pictures they are showing the female and the man. The man is benefiting from the female emotionally as they are having the argument. And the traditional gender roles, as you can see the pictures illustrating that, and you can see the woman is cooking, the man is benefiting from that, the woman is doing the chores for the house. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Sipho Dlamini, and I'm going to elaborate on the criticisms of conflict theory and the functionalist theory. Conflict theories too much emphasize on the class differences, ignoring the matters of inequalities that exist between the gender, which results in men being dominant. On the functionalist theory, They portray that human behavior is shaped by social forces, e.g. being socialized into traditional genders, norms and culture. People have developed certain ideas despite being socialized to obey. People have seen hidden agendas in the functionalist theorists, because when you go deeper and look at a closer look in the socialist theory, you can see that there is hidden agendas which result into men becoming dominant to women. Since they do washing, you can see in the picture there is a female there which do house chores for a maid. Therefore, women are seen as slaves of men. Thank you.
My name is Nonzuzo Zulu. I'll be looking at functionalist and conflict theorist views on gender. First of all, functionalists suggest that during pre-industrial societies, stability was maintained by assigning different tasks to men and women. Societies divided activities according to gender. Men were hunting, providing food, whereas women were assigned activities such as nursing, nurturing, and house chores. This led to existence of gender inequalities. Moving along to conflict theory. Conflict theory suggests that social problems arises when dominant group mistreats subordinate ones, thus advocates for a balanced power between gender. Frederick Engels suggests that women had less power than men in the household, mainly because they depended on them for wages. Even in nowadays, this still exists, mainly in households that follow tradition, as it is said to be an act of traditional gender role. Contemporarily, conflict theorists suggest that when women become wage earners, they can gain power in the family structure and create more democratic arrangements in the home, although they may still carry the majority of the domestic burden.
Okay, now I'm gonna talk about gender conflict theory. Gender is a structural system that distributes power and privilege to some and disadvantage to others. Specifically, that structural system is patriarchy, a form of social organization in which men have more power and dominance over other genders. We see examples of this structure in institutional practices that disadvantage women, like restricting higher education to men or refusing to allow women to vote. Women are stereotyped as more emotional and men as more rational, which makes people falsely see men as more natural fits for leadership positions. A typical example of this, in our country, it has been said that the country is ready for a female president, but that has not yet happened. Okay, our understanding of social conflict theory also will not be complete without discussing a movement closely linked to gender conflict theory, which is feminism. So what is feminism? Okay, feminism is the support of social equality for all genders in opposition to patriarchy and sexism. Okay, feminism. There are many forms that feminism can take, but let's highlight the three major schools of thought within the feminist theory. We have the liberal feminism, the socialist feminism, and the radical feminism. Okay, the liberal feminism. It seeks to expand the rights and opportunities of women by removing cultural and legal barriers to women's equality, like implementing policies that prevent discrimination in the workforce or improve reproductive freedom. Okay, this contradicts with the socialist feminism, which views capitalism as the foundation of the patriarchy and advocates for full economic equality in the socialist tradition. Socialist feminists tend to believe that the liberal feminist reforms doesn't go far since they maintain most of the existing institutions of power. Wow. Okay. The third feminist school of thought is known as the radical feminist, which believes that to reach gender equality, society must actually eliminate gender as we know it. It means that we must change the way we think or the way we look at gender. Radical feminism has clashed heavily with other subsets of feminism, particularly on transgender individual rights. This has been a long journey, so I think I have to round this up. Okay, there are many theories within sociology about how we think about gender. Today, we learned about two of those schools of thoughts on gender theory. The first one, it is the structural functionalism, which sees gender as a way of organizing society and emphasizes the ways that men and women can act as complements to each other. The second one, it is gender conflicts theory and the theories of feminism, which focuses primarily on the ways that gender distributes power within society. Thank you for allowing us to enlighten you more about gender. Hopefully you like our video. Thank you. Goodbye.